The thing that was definitely very clear, and so sometimes I even wonder if I'm seeing dead people and I don't even know, because sometimes, like this time, I knew this person wasn't alive anymore because it was my grandfather who passed away shortly before that, and I was in a movie theater in Manhattan, and I was sitting like on the side of the theater, like in the 10th row, and I saw this person from the back in the front row. And my grandfather was a unique looking guy. He always wore a cowboy hat and a really nice suit, and he was big. So he was like 6'3", but also really big, you know, more weight than he probably wanted to. So, and I thought, wow, that really looked like him. And it was on you nowadays in New York City. If you saw someone in a cowboy hat, you wouldn't think it's so strange, but back in those days. But he didn't have the cowboy hat on when I saw him, but it was sitting next to him. And I walked around front, and it was him. And I didn't even know what to do. I just walked right by him. I thought it for a second. I was with my brother. I said, "Did you see Pop in the front row there?" And he just said no. And I don't, just that I didn't totally freak out about it or, make that big a deal about it, I guess was a foreshadowing of my comfort with all that kind of stuff. Out of my body, looking, I was in the white light. It was nighttime out, and I was looking. The car was smashed so much that you wouldn't think the person survived in there. My body was leaning against a tree like this, leaning, and my legs were out. And a cop was crouching over me. In my experience, again, it was dark down there. It was all white here. Behind me, there was a big circle of white, a different shade, and within there was like a silhouette of like a full body silhouette of a man, it looked like, with another shade of white radiating off of it. The time, I don't know how long it was. It felt like there was no time. The feeling of it was really the thing that really impressed me. Like, it was just this, always trying to figure it out, but this loving, warm, like, even I say it, this energy starts to come in. It's like being outside. I live near the beach, like being on the beach in the perfect temperature day, where you feel it on your skin. And again, I don't know how long it was. Everything seemed to make sense. It was like I looked at the car, it was fine. My head was smashed open, it was fine. And then the being behind me said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay." Again, it seemed fine. Sometimes people say, "Could you say no?" I didn't even, like, everything just seemed so perfect. The world there, everything. I went back in my body and came 2-3 days later in the hospital. It just felt like, I don't know, see, I say it, and like it's almost like the air stands still around me, and that's what it was like. So when I try to think of that, it just, my mind expands, my energy expands, my heart expands, and that's like, then it's like your question, it doesn't even matter. That love, that, the feeling that I had there, the closest thing to it is the love for my daughter. I learned a lot from teachers after. Like, there's a part of like direct transmission from the teachers that is really quite profound. And then I can do that with other people. Sometimes what happens is my mind won't shut up and the sound starts to come in anyway, and then it reminds me, I can let that in, and this buzzing feeling gets all over my body. Sometimes when I can quiet my mind, there's the sound, and you kind of listen into the sound, and then it kind of lifts, and it's just happening now. So I'm kind of used to doing it when I'm talking on the computer because that's how I work, and then it connects me into this energy, and it's like all this information comes in. Sometimes it's knowing things about people. Sometimes, like right now, it just looks like these math equations that are being calculated there, and I'm not sure what that means. But I know I really like math, and it kind of makes sense to me because it seems like it's the only thing that there's a definite answer to. Everything else in the world there's opinions about it. There's something going on where it calculates, and it does seem like it's helping people heal when I see that, like lining up things inside of them also. Most people come to me because they want to feel better, either emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, but physically also. But yeah, I mean, I see some interesting things. This one woman that came to me, and it was interesting. She didn't tell me that. I mean, she told me some of the troubles in her family, and I just saw there was a lot of witchcraft, negative witchcraft energy around her and her family. And I thought that was very interesting, and I thought it was pretty cool that she had the wherewithal to come to someone like me without even knowing that part of it. She just had an attraction when she saw me, on YouTube. Jesus was all about forgiving, and it even when you're saying bestowing upon, it was just like here and then everything was okay. Nothing had to be done. Even saying I knew everything, that like there would be a need to know. And, so it's so hard to describe. It's almost like it's like breathing. You don't really think about breathing very much, or, something that's just part of who you are that you don't really think about. Just like everything is good, and there's this thing in your heart that is. So when I'm working, I can see that in people right away. It's like, oh, and then I can see, well, this is in the way of them knowing that. And then how do you get them to know that? And within there's usually healing on so many different levels. That's what it is. It's more like just knowing and being a part of it. It definitely was not like observing, and it wasn't quite like thinking. Okay. Again, when Jesus said, you have to go back, your Father wants you to say, it was just like, well, of course. And even of course is too much, because it just, it's, just think of something that you just know that is so true, you don't even think of it. You know what I mean? Right. So that's what it was like. And even I say that and my heart starts to expand, and part of me is almost like could get to tears, and it's just so beautiful and so wonderful that it is, and everyone says this, and that's part of the description. There's no way to put it into words, and people go, I know. How I describe it, there's a timeline in spirit. So when I'm looking, so a lot of times when I work with people, I see things that are from past lives. And the purpose is to clear things up in this lifetime, and then by seeing that, sometimes there are things in the future to clear, very rarely, but once in a while. So it is kind of like seeing a future life in a certain way. I just get a feeling about it and see what I see, and when the person gets, especially if it's a physical thing and they get better, there's no denying it. Someone feeling better, it could just be hearing a silly story makes them feel better, but I've just had so many experiences where what I do really helps people sometimes make more money, lose weight, fix relationships or leave relationships. Sometimes people come to me, they don't believe in what I do at all, and they get better. What I've seen is different things. So sometimes people ask me about their past loved ones, and the person is they're almost not even aware that they passed away. And they're like someone who would be like a hard worker. They're just doing the thing they were doing here. And it is kind of like sending some light to them to remind them. But I see people get stuck in all sorts of different levels on the way. And it just sometimes, it's kind of like praying for them and then holding that energy there and asking for the saint in the way that I said. And then some of it could be from my near-death experience. I can just see this glorious thing in people, whether they're physically alive or not, and then it's like, oh, then that glorious thing is what God is, and that's in everyone, and there's a connection there. Start to feel a lot of energy in my body. Yeah. I don't think it comes through me to them, but it is, because I work with people all over the world. It's like they're right there. And this energy comes in for them. There's so many different kinds of connections, and usually, anything and anybody in your life that's important to you, there's something from another lifetime that connects you. And the people that are really close to you, you've had many past lives with, definitely. So, one thing I want to mention, I do house clearing. So the things you're talking about in houses, they're definitely there. There are definitely things there's all sorts of different types of, and I just say general spiritual beings, because some of them are very negative, some are very positive. She said, can you do a house clearing? I go, yeah. So she said, I have 2 houses, and then she said, do you need the address? I said, I don't really need the address. You just need to tell me something about the house. It doesn't. And then, but when she gave me the address of the first house, this purple light just went whoosh, and the clearing was done right away. I didn't do anything that I was aware of.
Really?
And then the cool thing was she got an offer for the house the next day. She didn't tell me this, and I didn't find out for quite a while. They've been trying to sell this house for years, and it didn't sell. And all of a sudden I did that. But sometimes I see, there was this house I cleared. They're having a lot of plumbing problems. And there are these things called elementals that go in the earth and with underground water. And something was off with the elementals. And elementals they're not positive, they're not really negative, but we can ask them to help us, and they will. They kind of have to. And so I did what I needed to do, and it lined things up with the elementals, and then miraculously, like in a week, the plumbing problems were fixed that had been going on there for a really long time. Those things are just so cool. Yes, I get to see some of the demons and the entities. Those are the negative. There's a lot of different negative things. Luckily, the positive things can win out.